Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and I have two filmmakers, screenwriters, two generally artistic people with me. I've got Matt Keats and Mike Sorce. Hey, you two.
Hello.
And, all right.
I'm Mike.
Mike.
And I'm Matt.
And Matt. You can kind of tell your voices apart.
A little bit.
We'd like to blend into one person anyway, so it's all good.
Well, you might, but I could actually see Matt voicing a character on an animated show.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
A guy told me that at 7-Eleven the other day. He's like, dude, you sound like someone from Family Guy. I don't know if I liked that he said it.
Well, and we made a short film before the one that was at Sherman Oaks Film Festival, and I remember our director, there's a voice role, asked Matt to do it, and I was like, okay, I guess Matt will do it.
Sorry, man.
Oh, so actually, he could choose between the writers.
Yeah.
But there you go.
All right.
Well, so full confession, this is our second time. This is take two.
Correct.
2.5 months ago, almost, we recorded this podcast. And, well, I would say I blew it, technology blew it, something blew it, and we ended up sounding like robots inside a box, inside a concrete bunker. It didn't sound good.
I'm sure you didn't do anything
You
wrong.
should
It's gotta be
include
the
one
mics.
snippet of it, like edit that in.
Oh, that would be fun.
People would like to
Yeah.
hear it.
All right, you hear that, Karina? Maybe we'll stick that task on her. But it would be fun.
It sounds kind of like the chopped and screwed version of this podcast.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so you can listen to the remix after this.
Exactly. All right. So first I'll do the proper introduction, then we can start joking more about why we have to have the same conversation again. Although the beautiful thing is, 2.5 months since then, there was Sherman Oaks Film Festival and the holidays, and I was sick as a dog, and then a small part of LA burned down. I am actually sort of on a soapbox after the Palisades fire and several other fires around the LA area. And people are like, LA will build back. I'm like, LA's pretty big.
Yeah.
A neighborhood where I have friends who lost homes, but a neighborhood's gone. But 99.9% of LA is like nothing happened.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, that's unrelated soapbox.
But of course, all condolences to anyone affected.
and yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. So that was my way of saying I don't have a super clear memory of our previous talk 2.5 months ago. So this should be pretty good.
Hopefully more memorable this time.
If we'd done it 1 week later, we might have been extra goof-offy because, well, we already discussed both of your personal histories and all that.
Right, now we get to rehash it again.
You get to rehash. But I will
felt
do
like
the intro.
We overshared last time. It was almost a gift that the first one went wrong.
Yeah,
But
we were meant to redo it.
I will make up for that by oversharing yet again.
I was going to say I would be disappointed if oversharing didn't happen.
It will. It always does.
It needs to.
Yeah.
All right, well, I will share that you are both on this podcast because Manifesto, that you co-wrote and co-directed, was at the... Oh, shit, did I not put it down? It was at Film Invasion LA in 2023,
Sherman
correct?
Oaks Film Festival.
Sherman Oaks Film Festival. Oh, fuck me. 2 festivals. Oh, at least I got to curse for the first time. All right, sorry. I didn't have that part in my notes. But yes, Sherman Oaks Film Festival 2023 took home the Grand Jury Award for Best Screenplay for a short film written by the two of you. And it also won the Filmmakers Award for Outstanding Short Film Drama, which you might remember I reminded you, or if you remember what the Filmmakers Board is, it's alumni. So active filmmakers make up a jury, and they choose that award. So
that's the one we should feel really good about.
well, a writing award is great, but the grand jury, that's the selection jury. That's that's 5 to 12 people, depending on which category, who just, we watch too many films, your perspective changes, whereas the Filmmakers Board just watches the official selections.
Right.
They just watch the cream of the crop. So they have a better perspective, I think. And they've been making films. Whereas, the jury's just a bunch of old people who used to make films and now do something else. Because you can't make films and watch hundreds.
Right.
I think it makes you really, I don't know, maybe you can.
I try to.
Yes, you try to. All right, so...
I feel like the more successful you become, the less films you watch. So
Exactly.
We want to get to the point where we're watching none.
I need to watch, but I like what you're saying.
And by the way, I will add that Manifesto is on Omeletto.
That's correct.
So
Oh, shit.
it is still there. But, well, maybe this podcast will change things. We got an email that it's changing channels on Ameletto's channels. And we got about 20,000 views. And then we just got an email like, the numbers aren't rising fast enough, so it'll be somewhere on Ameletto.
It's moving
maybe
to
not the
a
main
different
channel.
Ameletto channel, but you'll still be able to find it if you go to YouTube and search
when
Ameletto.
they change link, because we do have the clickable link in the show notes. That clickable link is changing, you think? Or
we'll have to investigate that for you.
Yeah. If they are changing because they do have multiple channels, I bet we'll change the link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get you the right.
We'll
link.
see. Our like ratio was pretty high. I don't know if you have your YouTube dislike, sort of reloaded onto your computer, but I do. So our ratio is pretty high. So I feel good.
And there was a lot of comments and
Yeah.
good engagement. It was cool to see what people were saying about it.
Definitely some problematic comments as well.
Well, we'll talk about the film, but I mean, I'm a big fan, and it won awards, and it's thought-provoking.
Definitely.
And-
Sometimes dangerous thoughts.
Yeah, thought-provoking, open-ended. We had a really good time talking about it last time, and we will again. But I can see, but it's very cool that out in the public sphere like that with 20,000 views, it is cool that people who've never met you, right? They're not your friends, they're not family, they're not film festival runners and shit like that and juries, like just regular members of the public responded to it positively.
Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, at the actual fest, the audience was we didn't know that many people in the audience, and we had a very favorable reaction. It felt great.
Yeah, it was cool to see people react in real time like that. We saw some gasps, very exciting. So
And the gasps were hitting right where we wanted them to hit. It was great.
yes,
There is nothing better than that, right?
Yeah.
The live audience, and it wasn't that you packed the house with your people, not, you know what I mean, like it was, but it was a packed house as I recall.
it was. Yeah, there were people standing in the back of the theater. It was really full.
Mike's brother afterwards was like, I think I heard a few people laughing, though, at inappropriate moments. And we said, no, it's nervous laughter. That was a good reaction. But Mike's bro.
He's always got to be a hater.
Well, as I recall, you both have brothers, and
That is correct.
There's even a second.
Yes.
Yeah.
They made a short film
Sorce
together,
Keats.
too.
Yeah.
So there could be two Keats Sorces out there.
Yeah.
That'd be a
Yes.
first.
That would be great. They did make a short film together that Matt's brother Cameron wrote and directed, and my brother Joey was the star of. And Joey did produce Manifesto as well. Did all the work that we didn't want to.
And he did a great job. Despite his hating.
Despite
premiere.
but yeah, I would argue multiple viewings of Manifesto, the humor does come out. Like, you both have really good senses of humor, and it might be subtle. It's clearly a drama, but it's funny too, isn't it? Especially on repeated viewings, because like you're anticipating shit going wrong for someone.
Yeah, and I think seeing the trying to come up with excuses, like being backed in a corner character can make you laugh a little.
I'll agree with that.
And the film certainly covers a very pertinent issue in most modern relationships, which is electronic snooping on a life partner.
Yeah.
And that's always funny. I mean, how is
That
it
is
not
true.
How is it not funny to I won't use the example from the film, but like go on your ex's phone and go on your partner's phone and be like, why are there recent photos of your ex? You know what I mean?
Right,
right.
Like it's electronic snooping. Well, it's like the heroin. Like it's really hard not to do it.
Well, it only gets worse, too. I mean, if I look at, like, one thing that just randomly, my Instagram feed will be filled with that material for the next few days. I don't want anyone seeing that. So you could look at your partner's Instagram at the exact wrong moment, and it would look bad.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. It happens to me. Yeah. You just accidentally. I think it even. Do you think it gauges our scroll So that if you
It definitely
slow
does.
down but you don't tap, it still knows that like, oh, he slows down on Elizabeth Hurley. And I'm like, God damn it! I did want to see what she looks like in a bikini at 59 because I'm 57-ish, so I'm like, she's my peer.
Of course.
But all of a sudden, instead of just recommending guinea pigs and rabbits and huskies to me, all of a sudden more chicks start popping up in my Instagram, and I'm like, damn it! It knew I slowed.
Yeah. I do wonder how anyone gets away with, trying to deceive their partner these days, because I don't know about you guys, but my wife and I will pick up each other's phones interchangeably. And I mean, there is no sort of barrier there
Same
for
thing.
us.
I just looked up Elizabeth Hurley's Wikipedia page, and she is actually 59. So
Wow.
right on the money.
Well,
You clearly are looking at her.
No, that was literally the headline.
Okay.
It was like because it wasn't Instagram, it was Facebook. So it was like some I guess I should be proud of one thing about the algorithms, that they've identified that I like women of my own age. Like
Commendable.
I don't get flooded with young ones,
Right.
Which would be creepy
Sure.
to me than just for some reason, I think it's because I have a friend who texts me pictures of Phoebe Cates as a joke all the time. He's like, Phoebe wants you to know this. Phoebe wants you to know that. And he doesn't like women. So
Interesting.
maybe that would be embarrassing. Well, so anyway, we're already enjoying.
Well, my
an
other
unrelated
theory is
topic.
that Instagram, this could be a conspiracy level thinking, but if I take a picture of something, I tend to find sort of like stuff like that on my feed shortly after taking a picture of a specific thing. So I don't know. There's something going on with their access to your camera roll, in my opinion.
I agree. Well, and we all have that experience of you say something to your partner, and then something similar to it shows up in your feed. And I keep hearing like experts on podcasts say it's only because there's other things digitally, blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know.
Well, thank
It's
you
a
guys
big,
for listening
big
to our
podcast wants you to
podcast
think,
about
yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah, our podcast about snooping. Well, it was funny because I was going to say, I mean, my wife and I openly track each other's location. Like, we just have shared it. And, just so you know what time they're getting home, like, what court is she on at the tennis courts? We just do it because it's nice when you love somebody to, like, know where they are and they're safe and shit, right?
Right.
So,
Oh, yeah, no, my wife and I share locations as well. And my brother's, who's 28, and his friends all do it. And
Yeah, the kids like
Yeah.
to know where each other are.
his
a little
other
weird.
friend the other day was saying that it encourages more transparent behavior. So I kind of like that. But there's something dystopian about it as well.
I don't have my location shared with anyone.
ooh,
I'm mysterious.
That's why we came up with this movie.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
a short
so,
film.
So, two of the three people here, their life partner knows where they are. One is a mystery. All right, talking about mysteries now. So, as we're at 13 minutes, and now I'm finally going to ask the key question of the podcast.
All right.
Well, you were both here before.
We don't know if it'll be 13 minutes into the whatever edit.
It's true. No, we're not going to edit anything.
Oh.
We never edit anything.
All right.
That's unless you specifically say, I wish I hadn't said that about my uncle.
I did have a bunch of material about my uncle, so I'll have to let that slide.
Yeah, I pulled that out of my butt because that's an actual example. Someone shared that her coming out film was about her uncle, and then she's realized, oh, but my uncle never came out. You have to delete all that. And I'm like, oh, so it went from an hour to 20 minutes. But we on this podcast, Discover Indie Film, it's about how you became creatives and what got you two involved. I do know more of your stories than I did before,
Right.
but I'll just pretend I don't. And Mike, Matt, who wants to go first, saying where you grew up, when you first got interested in whether it was writing or filmmaking or performing, whatever pulled you into a life in the arts. Because, spoiler alert, these two are, this is the wrong thing to say, more successful than the average person I meet on the festival circuit. Because, the festival circuit is about people who are aiming, right?
Sure.
They're working towards something.
We live in a world right now too where there's hardly any barrier to entry. You could make a film on your phone. Everyone has a phone for the most part, so it's become easier than ever for anyone to do it. Which I think is why there's so many more people trying to do it now. You know. Anyway, I went first last time, so Matt, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Okay, so I'm originally from Texas, Houston to be exact. I just loved movies and music from a very young age, and I originally wanted to be a musician. Not only did I, and Mike knows because I always talk about this. Not only did I fail as a musician, every person that I ever knew was a musician failed as a musician. I don't know anyone that's made money off being a musician. So
I remember we met an executive once, a development executive who had been in a band that had like a single
Yes.
that was pretty successful.
They had a few singles with millions of streams, and they played Coachella, and he was like, we didn't even have healthcare.
Right.
So.
He realized like I'm never going to make money doing this. It's even harder than making it in film.
Well, no, it's so hard that I chose screenwriting as a more financially sound decision.
Right. It's something. Screenwriting felt practical compared to music.
Yes. Which is that's really saying something. Well, anyway, so around college, I decided that I wanted to pursue a career in film. I went to UT Austin. I then moved out. I spent my last semester in LA. I loved LA. I wanted to stay. I finagled a reason. I went to grad school at Loyola Marymount for screenwriting. I don't know if I recommend to your listeners to go to grad school for screenwriting. My brother did it too, though. But my brother went to NYU, a more reputable institution, though LMU's star is rising as well. But then after that, I worked a few strange jobs, and then finally realized that I wanted to get back to my goal of making it as a writer, and realizing that I needed to do something that would open doors. And then that's how I met Mike, because we started the same day. We're technically one day apart, but it's better if we say same day in the mailroom at an agency called Abrams Artist Agency, and then it became A3, and unfortunately RIP is no longer with us.
No longer exists now.
But that's how Mike and I met, and we had both been writing stuff on our own, and we became fans of each other's work. And then I'll pass it off to Mike.
All right, so I'll back up and go back to that point. But I grew up in New Jersey and then moved to Arizona right before high school. Always really loved movies. My brother and I would bond over that, and especially in rural Arizona where I lived, there wasn't much to do except go to the movies. So we basically lived at the movie theater, and eventually I worked there during college. And I went to Northern Arizona in Flagstaff, studied math. My sort of backup plan was to be a teacher, and because I didn't know anyone who had worked in film. I didn't think of it as like an actual career path. But I started a minor in film as well while I was in college, and then I started making short films with my friends there. And I realized that it was something I really wanted to do, that it was something I maybe could do, even though I wouldn't show you guys any of those short films now. And then I was too scared to move to LA when I graduated, so I stayed and went to grad school. I did a graduate teaching assistantship, so I was teaching classes and being paid. It was kind of just the best job opportunity I had, honestly. Saved up money, got a master's degree in math education, and then finally moved to LA, did some tutoring to make money while I did unpaid internships. I don't even know if those exist anymore. They probably do.
Like the kind where you were like reading scripts and writing coverage, or?
Yeah,
like,
I mean, I was basically doing assistant work. I mean, I was answering the phone and reading scripts, reading books, the company I worked for did a lot of like foreign remakes. So I was also watching a lot of like foreign television to see if it like was viable for them to get the rights to it, which was kind of interesting. I mean, I learned a ton there. There is value in those things, but I know it's also unreasonable to make people do unpaid labor like that. But anyway, it was what led me then to get my job at Abrams, where I met Matt, and I was at Abrams for 2.5 years. We both did a bunch of different assistant jobs after that, mostly working for or on failed television shows and pilots.
And we were trying to break into TV at first because Mike's a TV obsessive. So we wrote a bunch of different pilots. Well, we first wrote a feature together, which we wrote a feature because we bonded because we both, to get a job at an agency, had to take a job because we needed something that wasn't an internship on our resumes. It's the old catch-22 of an entry-level job needing, a year of experience.
Yes.
And internships.
Still truer than ever.
And internships not counting. So we both had to do something. So we both took jobs that we were working for a management company that was run out of an older person's home.
Where it was just us and this person.
Yes.
2 separate jobs that were just happened to be the same thing.
I took this job in 2014, and I was being paid $7.50 an hour.
And that was below minimum wage for the time, but was it cash under the table kind of thing?
Yes. I got a check for like $175 a week. So it was horrible, obviously. And then I quit with I manipulated this job to sound way better than it was, as people do. And it worked, because that's how I got my job, being an assistant. But I had to start the next day. So I was more naive at the time. I thought my boss would be very, very happy for me, having gotten a real job, my goal, and they were not happy.
Right, but even though they were paying you shit and they knew it,
yes,
they still felt like you should stick around.
Well, yeah, they were like, "You're gonna call." Here's where we get to the oversharing that I promised. They were like, "No, you're gonna call the agency and tell them that you're not taking that job for at least 2 more weeks." And then I was like, "I'm not gonna do that." And then, because it got really scary, but I took some solace, and I had my first moment where I was getting yelled at, like, "You're never going to make it in this town," kind of thing. And I was like, well, you can't make it unless someone's yelled at you that you're never going to make it in this town. So I liked that. And then I was like, well, you got to have some enemies. So I was like, I'm accomplishing a lot in this one day. I'm making an enemy. I'm being told I'll never make it. It was kind of great, actually. But I was still very scared. Well, no, I don't want to. Well, I'm just going to leave it there.
Okay.
I had some very scary thoughts about what might happen to me before the end of the
Which
day.
became the basis for the first script we wrote together, because I had also had this similar type of job, although my boss had a much kinder reaction to me quitting. And so the first feature we wrote together was called One Day Notice, and it was about a person working for an over-the-hill agent out of her apartment. He tries to quit. She freaks out and holds him hostage and says, "You're not leaving here until you sign," this famous actress who just publicly left her agency. And then that script we turned into a short film in 2018, which is where Matt got to do his voice work.
Yes.
So coming full
I think we
circle.
talked about that not on the podcast, though. Or did we?
No, that was at the
Oh,
beginning.
yes.
Yeah, I think so.
It's been so long. I can't even
We've just been
remember.
chatting.
But
And this is a second. I can't remember what happened in the first podcast.
No,
in this one.
it's a blur. But I actually have oddly enough, I just really want to ask, on that day that pivotal day, how old a person were you?
Oh, because I went to grad school and because I did 2 years like working in other industries after I was 28. So I was a little old, and I was having...
That's still pretty young, though, to have someone look at you in the eyes and say, you leave, you know what I mean?
Oh, of course. But, that was definitely... So I don't know how old your listeners are, but I definitely was completely paranoid about my age. This was... I now know was
anyone
mistaken.
to know you were almost 30.
Yes.
I went through the same thing, and I was a little younger than Matt was, but it is like all the other assistants are straight out of college.
Mm-hmm.
We both went to grad school. Took us a little bit of time to find that assistant job, and so you feel old. And then it's funny. I mean, my experience actually flipped when I finally got a job as an assistant at a writer's room, which was people were making fun of me being young. I think I was 26, and I grew a beard and was like, I'm not young, and I was trying to look older because, when you're in that position, you want to be promoted. You want people to think of you as someone who can be a writer and work on the show for real.
I think the ideal thing is just to look at this sort of, you kind of want to look like a CW dad. Like you're an amorphous, you could be in your 40s, you could be in your 20s. Nobody knows. And that's the way we want to keep it. So we're working towards that.
Right. And it is, because it is, the industry is, there's almost no way to describe it, but because it is age obsessed in so many ways. And yet, like you pointed out, it's age obsessed that like, shouldn't you be a big shot by this age? But it's also like, you don't want to be too, you know what I mean? Like you're either too young or too old at every age. At every age, you're either too young or too old. So basically, like, you start to realize that, like, it really is meaningless.
Well, in retrospect, so the lesson I learned is the only person that really cares, no one that cares about it as much as you think they do. That it's really in your own head, any sort of age crises.
I also think that a lot of the time, people can't really tell. A lot of people just kind of assume they're a similar age to you if you're within, like, 10 years. So you just
roll with it.
Shut up about it. Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Even less. People might lie to me, but like I meet people at the festivals, they figure, oh, we're peers, and I'm like, I'm way closer to your dad's age, but I appreciate you thinking we're peers.
Well, the show Younger is trending on Netflix right now because it just arrived on Netflix, and my wife has been rewatching it. And the premise is Sutton Foster is a 40-year-old woman saying she's 26, right? And I was watching it, I'm like, if my friend that I thought was 26, I found out was 40 right now, I would not. I'd think about it for like 30 seconds, and then I would never think about it again. I would not care. Yeah.
I was actually going to come across a little zen and mystical about, because really the age thing, it really is another form of narcissism, right? It's assuming everyone cares how old you are, but no one cares about you anyway.
Totally.
Right. Everyone's thinking about themselves.
Yeah. I like. Oh wait. Honestly, like, if I fuck up a podcast, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think I suck. Actually, you're not going to think that much about it. Because it's way more important to me that there was a mistake. But to other people, like, whatever, mistakes happen.
100%. Yeah, so I was completely paranoid about my age every day, especially about turning 30. Every day until I turned 30. And then I was like, well, I'm 30. There's nothing I can do about it. And now it doesn't bother me.
And your 30s have kicked ass, right?
It's been ups and downs. I mean, Mike and I have had success in our 30s, but we want even more success. And my 40s are coming.
Your 40s are coming.
Yes.
Well, let me ask, because you mentioned the assistant jobs and internships and such, and you mentioned a writer's assistant job, which many people who were never on the screenwriting track, and most people don't realize that that's actually like a pivotal job, right? To be a writer's assistant in a writer's room.
Yeah.
At least
me,
in the old days, in the old
yes.
days, it used to be how you got into TV. I hear it's different now. But.
Well, I mean, it's still. Look, Mike and I have sold multiple scripts and been hired to write things. I still don't know how to do it. So I don't know how to get a writer's assistant job.
It is really, really difficult, and I think it has only gotten harder since I had a handful of those jobs, which, by the way, didn't end up leading anywhere for us personally, but it is extremely difficult, especially now with the contraction in TV. I don't know that it's a viable path, really, anymore. Yeah.
You mean TV writing or being an assistant or
being an assistant? No. I mean, there's still plenty of people writing TV. Obviously, less people, but I don't know that that's like a guaranteed. I mean, it was never guaranteed. I don't know that's really that.
Yeah,
viable.
but it used to be. I mean, this goes back to the '80s. Around '88 to '92, if someone got the assistant job in the writer's room of Frasier or Friends, you knew that person was set for life. The day they got hired as the writer's assistant is the day they got a manager and an agent and everything. And like, you were just like, okay, someone is, now you're in, talented or not.
When I left Abrams, it was to go work as the writer's PA on a show called Rise, which was a new Jason Tatum show on NBC. And I remember the clients of my boss at the time were like, "Oh man, you did it! Like you're set." That was the attitude. And then I got there, I realized, oh, there's like 8 other assistants who he has known longer and likes more than me, who are ahead of me in this line. If this show goes 12 seasons, maybe. And then it got canceled after 1 season. It's like nothing is ever promised. But that was part of the reason also that we pivoted to features, was we both became very jaded. Matt worked for a few different executives on the development side doing, who were doing different pilots and stuff that, didn't get picked up or, didn't move forward. But we thought, it was time to give features more of a shake.
Yeah, so, and then, Mike and I first started doing stuff together in around mid to late 2016. We wrote a bunch of TV pilots, as I mentioned, after that first one-day notice thing that we mentioned. And then, by the way, my stomach is growling, and if this picks this up.
No, it's actually...
people can attribute it to me. Actually, just kidding, that's Mike. But anyway, Oh yeah, so we wrote a bunch of different pilots, and the TV game, we were making some inroads, but then there were a lot of setbacks, and we decided, why don't we write a feature, see what happens. And then that feature, at the end of 2018, made the blacklist, and then we sold that to Netflix in early 2019.
For those who don't know, most people know about the blacklist who are, but actually, even at the festival level, I think a lot of writers... Like the blacklist, it started as a website, and people would just submit scripts.
It started as this guy Franklin Leonard. He's like a bit of a Hollywood insider, and at the end of every year, was known for having good taste, and at the end of every year would reach out to sort of his group of trusted, insiders, and whatever scripts got the most buzz were on the list at the end of the year. And
right,
then,
the best unmade scripts.
Yes, and then that list sort of started to achieve a lot of clout, and then that spun off into the website where you can submit, your
right,
work
where you can get review. You can pay to get your screenplay reviewed.
But this was still the official end of year blacklist, so it was like
so you got in pre-website era?
No.
Oh no.
Post-website era, because there's still the list.
It was on the list. Yeah.
There is a lot of confusion now between
I think
yearly list. Well, whatever. If Franklin Leonard is listening, I think that the confusion is intentional.
Right.
Anyway, when we made it at the end of 2018, it was a ecstatic day, and then we set that script up with Chernin. We sold it to Netflix. Still hasn't been made yet. Hopefully, will be. It's called The Second Life of Ben Haskins. And then from there, because of that, we were able to quit our jobs, and we've just been writers ever since. So since around early to mid 2019, we've been able to just write, which has been great.
Yeah.
Pat, you can give a quick summation of the rest of the journey since.
Well, I was going to jump to. I'll do the journey first, but yeah, we've done a couple open writing assignments. We've sold another script since then, so we've kept the work steady. What we've learned, TV versus features, is that on the TV side, we would have a lot of great meetings. People liked our scripts, but we didn't have any credits. We hadn't worked in a writer's room as writers, and so they didn't want to develop material with us. They wanted it to be someone who could be a showrunner or, who could be in charge of the show if it were to move forward. But on the feature side, they might fire you anyway. They might hire someone else to write it. They don't care who you are. They care that the script is cool, that the concept is cool, and that's it. And so I think they're, in terms of just pure, is the writing good? There is a lower barrier to entry on the feature side, because that is the thing that matters most.
Right, because in features, there's an attitude, at least the studios had an attitude of they'll hire a bank of 20 more screenwriters to fix it.
Exactly. Which is why when we come up with our ideas and try to figure out what we're writing next, we are the absolute hardest on each other at the concept phase, because we believe that, especially for us, we haven't had a movie produced. The most important thing is the concept, and for someone to see a log line where they go, "Oh, that is a movie," and however much they like the script matters a little less, honestly, because yeah, like you said, they might just hire someone else to. I mean, hopefully they don't, but they might, and they know that.
I do personally think that, like, well, even though I think that the quality of the script is very important, because you have to deliver satisfaction. The premise, which has to be good, must be satisfied with the level of the writing. And Mike and I are very meticulous about our writing process and sort of perfectionisty. But no matter what happens, someone's going to make you it. And no matter how good the script is, someone's going to make you change stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But I think there's a line you can graph of like how unique is the concept, how fresh is it, and how good does the script have to be for people to be interested. If you want to write a coming of age movie about someone having a really hard time in high school and needing to go to college and figure that out, and they're, it's so hard. That has to be the best script you've ever written, because there's 100 movies like that. And so for someone to pull the trigger on that and want to actually do it, it has to be a 10 out of 10, perfectly written script, Whereas if you come up with a logline no one's ever seen before, and the script's only a 6 out of 10, they might still want it. Not that I'm saying our scripts are that.
Mike,
we do both.
The subtext is you're saying that we're dropping 10 out of 10 scripts left and right.
Well, but the truth is, the idea is king.
Yes.
Idea is king, and I mean, we could have a debate, right, in our own heads about, a great idea moderately executed versus an average idea brilliantly executed. Like great writing is both. Like great writing is an original. It has to start with an original idea. You know what I mean? Like the person who. Fine, the coming of age stories are pretty nice, but like the thing I make fun of all the time at the festival level is, all right, so sometimes begrudged white males will send an angry email of when they get rejected, and I'm like, dude, we get 800 plus films a year in each festival. If your short film is 8 minutes on like wanting to ask out the pretty girl in class and working up the courage to ask her, and then it ends with you asking, and then it cuts to the credits. I'm like, everyone else has done that before you. Like, you have failed to do something that we haven't seen before. And it doesn't have to be something we've never seen before, but if you want to end up in a film festival...
Yeah. That actually cut me deep, because you just described a short that my brother and I made in college. So I've been there.
No, but everyone makes that film because,
Yeah.
because also when you're 20... that's maybe the most important emotional moment of your life.
Of course. And by the way, this is also not to say that there's anything wrong with a more basic concept or that type of movie. I love those kinds of movies. I'm just coming at this purely from like a business perspective of, which I think we've had to adjust our mindset on, is like, what is the thing that's going to move our career forward? What is the thing that may earn us money, right? This is a job. Like we have to think about it with that perspective in mind, while also being artists.
Yeah, I mean, I almost feel, but I'll let it go. Like, the really great, the memorable films were all unique, even if it's about, Swiss Army Man, where it's really an extended fart joke. Still, no one had ever done a really extended fart joke like that.
Right.
Like, that writing team deserved to get somewhere because they did shit no one else had ever thought of.
Yeah, I've heard several people say, like, if you can do even one scene, if you can show one thing that no one's seen before, like, that will get you attention and people will be interested.
And it should be in the first 5 pages, hopefully.
Yeah, that would help.
Because that's all they're going to look at.
Oh, yes, we're definitely adherents to the... definitely one of our philosophies is you got to start with the opening image. Can't start with somebody waking up in the bed. We won't do that. And then, the first scene's got to be great.
I think it was, I'm dating myself, but back in the day, for some reason, Shane Black got the credit for it. That instead of like by having something memorable by page 10, he was like Lethal Weapon. He wrote Lethal Weapon, and it was at the bottom of page 1, the young woman her body had slammed on the top of that car.
Right.
And he's like, if you don't hit your reader at the bottom of page 1 with something that makes them turn the page, they might set it down.
No, I agree. Yeah, like, script notes, it's like the 3-page challenge. It's really the 1-page challenge. Yeah.
It's tough.
Honestly, you kind of, with a large amount of screenplays, I think, first, like, 4 lines of the script, you kind of know if it's going to be good or not.
It's hard not to.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to know when you're watching a film if in the first 1 to 3 minutes, you're like, you already, whatever. Well, this is too much. So
You've established the vibe, it's like...
You've established, if you're watching the film, you've established production values, you've established quality of acting, all kinds of things are apparent to the viewer, like, instantly.
Yeah, definitely.
Including font.
Yes.
I care a lot about the font of the title.
We talk about font a lot,
Yes.
so you're talking the right guys.
Did we talk font 8 weeks ago?
I don't think we did.
I don't know.
Because I have a running joke with my wife who does watch a lot of submissions with me because at night we just sit down and on our couch and watch film festival submissions. But like I joke with her when the font comes up, if it has a title card, I go, okay, like I know I think I'm 90% accurate if the film is good or not based on the title, the font they choose for the title of the film. Because if you don't get that creative choice right,
Yeah.
it's way more likely to suck.
But yes, I'm a font snob. And all of our scripts that we write, even though people say they don't care, we do like to go the extra mile and have a little bit of a nice subtle pizzazz on the cover page.
We always have a unique title page for
That's
sure.
nice, right? You bother with a courier title. Who wants a courier title?
Yeah.
But you don't want to go overboard either, because then the reaction is like, okay, the script might suck a little bit.
Right. What are they covering up
Yes.
for?
But the title, since you mentioned title, also of extreme importance.
Extreme.
We slave over titles.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually the titles you've named for the things I've never seen or heard of are very, very original. And Lord knows any screenwriter or filmmaker should do a nice Google search, do an internet search on that title before you choose it. Because Lord knows.
I agree. I mean, ideally, when Mike and I have discussed titles, we want there to be nothing else that exists with the title. Unfortunately, sometimes, especially because a one-word title can be great, there's not one single word doesn't have some IMDb page.
Yeah.
But as long as we're like, okay, no one knows what this is, we'll do it.
I mean, there's not too many manifestos, right?
Yes.
I haven't seen, whereas, and thank God my friend doesn't listen to all the episodes. I do have he didn't write it. It was given, I have a friend who directed a film titled Seance. Mm-hmm. You cannot find his, and it was written by someone else, and the writer brought the script to him, and they talked a lot about trying to change it to something less common. But like on IMDb, like Seance goes up to into the 70s.
Of course.
Like there's 70 Seance films. Mm-hmm. And it's like, but then some people would say that's good marketing because people might watch yours by accident when they're trying to watch the other Seance.
Oh, like that.
I don't hate the title Seance. I'm just going to I'll throw it out there in your friend's favor.
But when you literally can't find it.
Yes.
Right. That used to be like a strategy in the straight to DVD era. They would like do something really close to a real movie, so you'd accidentally watch their movie instead.
Die Harder.
Right.
But like if Blumhouse released a movie called Seance, I would be like, oh, that's not a bad title.
Yeah.
Very
it does
true.
sound like a Blumhouse movie.
Doesn't
It is why they stuck with it, because there was nothing better. But anyway,
Right.
to you, my apologies. So anyway.
Well, sometimes we'll have a placeholder for a while, but we know it's not the right title yet. But it always comes. Sometimes sooner than later. Sometimes we'll run 150 titles by each other, but it'll always come at some point.
It's so important. It establishes the right tone. It hopefully gives you an idea of what you're in for and whets your appetite. I mean, it's essential.
I mean, in my funny little world that I keep bringing up, but I am sitting here, so I might as well bring in my little world. Like, I have a partner, and I'll say to her, so-and-so is coming over for a podcast. And if it's a unique enough title, she's like, oh, I love that film. Sometimes I have to say, the one where X happens. But most of everyone coming on this podcast made something memorable. And that's part of it, right? Like, the title being memorable really matters.
Yeah, definitely. And, for Manifesto, much like perhaps Seance, it felt like, that was kind of the only option. It was just right to the punch.
Well, Mike suggested this one, and I just go, yeah, all right, I can't change it.
Yeah.
Well, deep down, that is the core of the film.
I think Mike just recalled it, man. He didn't even run the title by me, and I was like, yeah, well, he's right. That's the title.
All right, well, let me ask. So you started collaborating, and you had your success together, and then that one. By the way, the wonderful moment when the film, whose title I can't remember, got set up at Netflix through Chernin, I think you said?
That's called The Second Life of Ben Haskins.
Second Life of Ben Haskins.
There's no other movie with that title.
No,
Yeah.
and it's catchy. So after that, how long did it take you decide to make a short like Manifesto? Because my understanding is, right, Manifesto was almost like not proof of concept, proof of talent.
Yes. Basically, because Mike and I have our only, we're just writers. I don't want to sound like I'm denigrating writers.
Right,
Yeah,
but
we are
which is not
primarily-
fair.
Writing is what we care about.
As we have written more and more scripts and set up projects and been on our journey, we've realized just how much power directors have. And especially in today's day and age, I feel like the vast majority of directors want to direct things that they wrote, which is often great, but there's often great directors that aren't exactly great writers.
And I think it really limits the pool for people like us who want to just be writers. There's so many directors who don't consider other people's scripts. They just want to write their own material, which, fair enough. But it makes it more difficult when we're trying to set something up and trying to find a director to collaborate with. There just aren't as many as you would like there to be.
So we really just wanted to direct something to point to say, hey, we directed this thing.
Right. And that way, hopefully, we can keep the ball rolling there and maybe, make a couple other things. We can, throw our own hats.
Here's what needs to happen. We need to get a couple of our scripts made, first of all. Then something we write that's on the smaller, lower budget end, we can say, hey, we did this thing. Let us do this smaller thing.
You need your Swiss Army man.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Because funny, because listening to you both, you're almost perfectly suited for the previous era, where the studios were in control enough to say, no, director, we're going to pick a script and then attach you to it, because you're not as good a writer as these writers.
Trust me, I absolutely wish that we lived in the sort of the 90s Shane Black era. That was our era, but we missed it.
Yeah.
So we have to
You
just
can't
live
control
with
when
this
you're
one.
born.
Exactly.
Hey, there's been some big spec sales recently. Maybe it's coming back.
It
I mean,
should.
Well, and in this talk that we're doing about all directors and whatnot, we got to give props to directors like Luca Guadagnino. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but he's bringing back the spec market.
Yes.
And he's very willing to direct a concept that he thinks is great and a script that he thinks is cool.
And from writers without credits.
Yes.
He's not, choosing A-list screenwriters to work with.
I have a theory that I can't prove, but my theory would be that this is actually a product of laziness, that in the last 10 to 15 years, the studios also, instead of being run by film people, they're run by corporations and accountants, right? So they slashed the workforce that was reading all the scripts.
Yes.
And finding the best ones and letting the cream rise to the top. So it's become harder for them to find scripts. Right? The studios used to, in the golden era, each studio optioned well over 100 spec scripts a year.
Right.
And there were 7 studios way back when. So, a few thousand scripts were selling a year, and then they would rise to the top. and now they don't even have enough staff reading.
Right. You're 100% right, because it also speaks to how now everyone wants to bring in a full package before they even try. It's very rare that you will find a producer who is willing to just send your screenplay in to the studio without a director, an actor, maybe a second actor, maybe a costume designer. I mean, they want everything set before they will pull the trigger on it.
I mean, you're bringing up why right before the writer's strike, right, the WGA en masse all fired their managers or agents. What happened?
Yeah.
It was the agents because
We had to
realized-
fire our agents.
because the agents were acting like producers instead of agents and just packaging it together and ripping off the writer. Am I wrong?
Something like that.
Oversimplified? Is there a way to talk about that firing that doesn't ruffle too many feathers, or?
I think it was, an admirable cause to be taken up. I wonder in retrospect how much effect it actually had on the process and what good it did. Certainly for us personally, it was a frustrating time for that to be happening. But that collective action that's a byproduct of it sometimes. So we took part. We fired our agent, and we move forward, and there certainly on the TV side is less packaging, but there's also less TV. So
Because it happened.
tough.
It happened right when streaming made it seem like there was going to be more writing jobs than ever.
Yeah, and for a minute there was. I mean,
Yeah.
there really was, and now the bubble was always going.
Yeah, everyone
to
I knew
burst.
Well, it was just like the .com era of the 90s bubble bursting. It can't last forever. And then, there were some really bad movies getting made. So I'm very hopeful about this era that we're about to enter into. So feeling very optimistic.
I think, obviously, this is beyond me, but there's still things to be figured out with making streaming profitable, and how does it work, and what do they charge, and are there commercials and all that. But, we're just here to write. I'm not the guy trying to figure that out.
So your focus
Now you're
on the daily is still writing, primarily. Like
definitely.
the Manifesto experience was the first step into adding director to your.
Oh yeah, there will be another
repertoire.
step. We have a few different features that could be on the smaller end, that we have like an idea for the short that I think we could pull off. But
Yeah, I think this time we'd like to be more intentional about, here's a proof of concept version of a feature we have ready to go, and we can do it, and here's the proof.
here's the main thing is we don't want to spend any money.
Right.
Right.
One of
Well,
the
you
reasons
have
we did-
lives, right?
Wives, is that what you said? Yes.
Lives and wives and.
Yes, we have lives with wives.
Do you have family yet? Are there
No.
children?
Just
Not
wives.
yet. 2 dogs.
Yeah, as soon as the kids show up, then everything gets harder.
Well, I mean, the thought process behind Manifesto 2 was we made it for like $1,000.
Right. The thought it was we can do this basically for free.
Yeah.
What and so
But we should give a shout out to all of the actors that did a tremendous job, and our cinematographer Rob, he's a jack of all trades.
yes, Rob Upchurch, producer of the great Canadian film Blackberry.
Yes, and Mike's brother Joey, got to give him some props as well. So I don't mean to like say it in like a braggadocious way. Oh, we only spent $1,000 on it. We were able to only spend $1,000 on it because we had some great friends and supporters that
That were willing to work for free.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was a community effort, But we know that for the next thing we would like to do, we have a few options we're weighing. We're going to have to spend more than $1,000 likely.
Which kills me.
Yeah.
Which is tough. But I'm just curious. I have no idea what your answer will be. Do you feel like you'd be better off if you'd made? Because nowadays, actually, there's one funny thing about the streaming era is it's changed the expectation of feature length.
Yeah.
So, like, would you be happy to make a $10,000 to $15,000 75 to 85 minute film?
Oh, that's been a thought too, as well. Maybe.
Yeah.
Because I forget the runtime of Manifesto, but
I think it's 14 minutes.
yeah, see, so You know,
We could have made a whole movie for
five manifestos.
We could have made a whole movie for $5,000.
Right.
6 or 7 manifestos makes a
Yeah.
feature.
He is saying
if you do the anthology thing of series of shorts, the Kentucky Fried Movie. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I think it's
Well, because I also consider you both talented. That if you gave yourselves the writing assignment of a whatever, I'll just pull it out of my ass, $10,000 feature,
yeah.
and you just shot it on weekends for a while.
Yep.
I know people have made these films.
You know, I'm not
and sometimes they're really fucking good.
Yeah, no, hey. He's saying some good stuff.
Yeah.
My mind is spinning for sure. All right. Podcast over. Let's just go do it.
Podcast over. No, I will. And by the way, I would love to show you some of the films that were at Sherman Oaks
Please do.
last year, because there was several made that way that were just unbelievably great quality. And now, of course, I'm doing my thing where I have to sit back and go, oh my God, please make it. Please. Someone needs to see these features and go, oh my God, that. And one of them was really low budget, but a super Chris Nolan-esque quality to it. Mm-hmm. Just really creative.
yeah.
And another one was, I mean, the young man says he spent a lot on it, but it's just, but you can tell. Whatever. I'm praying that something breaks through, because Lord knows, making a great feature doesn't mean it'll get out there. Although in your cases, you are slightly better connected. So you've already sold something. You sold a script to Netflix. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would certainly love for the Sherman Oaks Film Festival to premiere.
Okay, let's go. We have a standing invitation, Mike.
Yeah, well.
No, that's
I believe in y'all.
It's a great idea.
I would be. This is not to totally like put the spotlight on you, but I'd be pretty surprised if you made something shitty, because you have really high standards and you challenge each other. I think that's one of the benefits of being a team.
Definitely.
Well, we also love challenges, especially a challenge of like a. We love trying to think of something high concept in a contained setting. I don't know what our next thing would be that we could do for $5,000, but we could think of something. We love a challenge.
Yeah.
It is. Well, it's a funny balance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is a daily? What do you guys wake up and have coffee and then hop on? Do you get in a room together and work, or do you divide
Mike,
and conquer?
You want to describe the process?
Yeah, we used to pre-COVID, and then COVID kind of showed us that we could accomplish quite a lot.
Well, we never wrote in the same room together.
No, not writing in the same room, but when we were brainstorming, when we were outlining, we would typically be in the same room, and that's less true these days. Usually we just hop on the phone, but
partially because in the early days there was one point where I got fired from a place where I was working. I had nothing to do, and I didn't live far from where Mike was working, so I would just go have lunch with him, and we would brainstorm ideas every day,
which was always fun.
Well, it made me feel slightly better about I felt like I was like less unemployed because of Mike, but I was still quite unemployed.
But, our typical process, as we mentioned earlier, we toss a lot of ideas back and forth before we finally pick one. Then we outline very heavily together so that we kind of know, 90% of the moves that are going to be made within the script, while still leaving, room for surprises and figuring characters out and that kind of thing. And then we split the script up into 8 sequences, 8 chunks. 2 in Act 1, 4 in Act 2, 2 in Act 3.
Not that we're rigid upholders of that. It's just it's the process that works for us.
Yeah.
I would get out my pom poms and cheer for story structure if you wanted me to.
Oh no, we're very big on structure.
But we also, I think the most important
understand
thing,
that other people have different processes, but I would agree with you, or if the subtext of what you're saying is that there's not enough focus on structure, like even though I like a lot of A24 movies. I'm sorry that I'm sending us on a detour here, Mike. I called you Mark twice for some reason, but so many A24 movies just have no structure at all, and I don't understand how no one is stopping this from happening within the company.
These people are going to see the movies.
Yeah, you're right.
I think
because when they're horror, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
what the word that we use the most though is flow. You know, it's every movie's going to have a different structure. The structure is unique to each movie. You know, I always remember in a writing class talking about inciting incidents, and the teacher was trying to portray how they actually happen at different moments in different movies, depending on how they're structured. And he was like, "What is the inciting incident of Juno?" And everyone was like, "She gets pregnant." And he's like, "Great, that happens before the movie starts." Like, we don't see that, you know? And I remember being like, oh, yeah, like, what's important is that the movie is flowing and having the same language, and that things are happening. Mm-hmm. Yes, things must happen in a movie.
And there must be like I mean, it's really all about creating a subconscious feeling of satisfaction, of narrative satisfaction in the reader/audience. So it's all about... Yeah, we're just reading it like, but Mike's nailed it. It's the flow.
I like that you say flow instead of pace, because there's an implication. It shouldn't be, but there's an implication with pace that it has to be fast paced, and a slow paced film can have fantastic flow that keeps you engaged from start to finish.
Of course.
And I am always actually really happy with my brain when I enjoy a film that's slower paced. I'm like, oh, I can still do it. Because you start to worry, like, have I shortened my attention span? But no, it's not about attention span. It's about flow. If it has the right flow, you're totally engaged.
Well, you know, one thing that I do think that helps for the two of us, even though, like, we both write and rewrite each other's... There's not, like, one thing where it's like, I do this, Mike does that. We all do the same stuff. But we just edit and sort of polish each other's pages and then write our own, and back and forth, so everything has a very uniform voice. But I think what really helps us is Mike having a master's degree in mathematics. It does help us look at things it's like problem solving, you know. And then I have a background in music, so talking about the flow, there's got to be this
lyricism,
musical flow of, like, you know, just understanding of, like, peaks and valleys and rising tension. So that, with the mathematical sort of things, it's very satisfying to me. So.
I see.
I've never heard you put it quite like that, but that is very cool.
See, that's the purpose of the podcast, is to learn stuff about each other.
There we go.
Yes.
No, but I have heard that, though, before with pairs. I was going to ask, because it sounds like you both are quite ego-free, at least in this relationship. Am I reading it right? Like,
we don't get in a lot of fights.
We try to be.
Yeah. I mean, every writer's got some ego.
Is that you both are actually not narcissists, or or less egocentric, or did you learn the value of partnership and give it a priority so that you don't? Because rewriting each other's stuff, I know some people that just can't take it.
No, we've gotten pretty... And anytime, well, one funny thing is, because we both don't, you know, the reason that we're writers is because we don't want to experience conflict in our real lives.
Yes.
So we try to avoid conflict, and what we'll do is, there's a particular line that Mike doesn't like, or that I don't like, or that I do like. It keeps getting deleted every time Mike has the pages, and I just keep adding it back.
Yeah, we have our arguments on the page.
Once that happens around 3 or 4 times... we realize we got to talk about, hey,
or one of us finally backs down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Without any, so it's just on the page. You've seeded it.
No, but if it stays, we realize at a certain point, like, okay, this is now we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
But still, you talk about it. You don't argue.
No. Very little arguing.
Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, you know, the rewriting has never. I think there's definitely times where I'll speak for myself. I don't know if Matt feels this way. Sometimes you get back your pages and they're more heavily rewritten than maybe the last pages, and you think, man, maybe I didn't crush that one. Or then you read it and you think, well, maybe it's just a tougher scene and it needed more. You know, we needed to do it, and now I need to do more on it. And it's all.
In general, we have like one argument a year.
Yeah.
Because you can't avoid it. Because this is like a work marriage.
Yeah.
But but it always results in us the same day being like, I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
So, but I think we're both very sensitive.
That is very true.
Right. So you have your temperaments are similar. It sounds like.
Well, Mike is very necessarily like I could be more sort of spacey and maybe procrastinate more, but Mike is very again, it's the mathematical side of things. He's very like a teacher that I have to turn homework into. But that's great because
he almost became a teacher.
Yeah.
It's great because that might be that might be the biggest thing to why we've been able to write a lot is Mike's demands.
I think Matt thrives on a deadline.
Yeah, because Mike's creativity surges in the waning hours before the deadline.
Well, there was something I was going to bring up from our first effort of this podcast, but I'm just gonna whip this out. I think we've got the McCartney-Lennon thing going on, and then the two are better because McCartney was the one that was like, right, a little more practical and driven and like. But anyway, and then the math side, the more mathy side of creativity. But they're both creative geniuses. It's always about creativity, but creativity isn't always the same. And so there's.
Oh, I would say very Lennon McCartney, except we're writing a script where we just brought up this metaphor, by the way.
Yeah.
Except
the Lennon McCartney metaphor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. So we're on the same page creatively.
Yes. So you're not mad at me for saying that?
No. Well, first of all, they're both extremely successful. We will hopefully avoid an acrimonious split that they had. I think they're both a little more.
They started at like age 15 and 17, so it's a little hard, right? You started at a better time.
Yeah, more mature and.
Well, we just wrote a script as well that is about music and. And it's based on a real story. One of the central figures is Alan Klein, who was the Rolling Stones manager and also the Beatles manager, and is often blamed for the Beatles breakup. So we don't have an Alan Klein or a Yoko in our dynamic.
Right.
So I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, our most recent script was called Bittersweet Symphony. It's about the single by The Verve, very popular in the 90s. If you don't know it by name, you would know it if you heard it. There's a very interesting legal battle behind the song. We wrote this kind of social network-esque meets Almost Famous movie about the band's rise and fall because of the success of their big hit, which should have blasted them into another sphere and instead caused them to break up. Yeah. And it was also on the blacklist last year.
Yeah. So just a few weeks ago. So between take one of this podcast and this one, that happened. So that was
really is that the second time or third time on the blacklist? See, and what I was gonna bring up before I wanted to compare you two to Lennon McCartney was that you shared more of your personal history last time, and now we've been more about process, which makes sense. But you did point out that
there was things that I wanted you to delete from the last one. So that's good.
But you pointed out that Mike, like you also have complementary personalities, and that you'll be the one that will make those calls, right? You'll call and you're willing to be hung up on 20 times and you'll still dial the 21st time.
I'm more of the annoyance by email, like check in with people, networker type of person. Yeah. Where I know it kind of gives Matt anxiety to send an uncomfortable email.
Well, however, so sometimes we do have that dynamic. However, in most dynamics that we have, there's always a time where someone will switch.
Yes.
And then the other person has to do something. So there was one, I won't name any names. There was a very...
I know what he's talking about.
There was someone that we were involved in a movie with all of last year that was someone very successful, who we love, by the way, but somewhat intimidating figure, that I had to call,
we needed them to sign something,
yes,
and they were not doing it.
And I had to call this person every day for 6 months.
Matt called them
and
every single day.
And it finally worked out.
6 months.
Yeah.
Wow.
These things happen.
Wow. Yeah, I don't need to know the name. I just want to give you a golf clap for. Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? With the film festival, I keep hiring people to do jobs, and they'll make 2 or 3. They'll send 2 or 3 emails, and if they don't get a response, well, I'm done. I can't get anywhere. And I'm like, no, you could keep trying. You know,
Yeah.
you could. I mean, I joke now that I appreciate the honesty because they could take $20 an hour and not send those emails and just lie to me. And
That's
instead
true.
they actually tell the truth and go, no, I'm over it. I can't. And I'm like, wow, why can't I get somebody who will like keep trying?
Yeah. You know, it was something I learned at the agency because the agent I worked for, my boss at the time, was the type of person where, you know, I kept a binder of, you know, submissions we need to follow up on, whatever. And there would be times where I'd be like, you emailed this person 4 times and they haven't responded. Should I just toss, you know, should we call it good? And he'd go, no, what do you mean? I'll email them again. You know, like it was never over. It was, I am going to make them say they don't want this script.
Yes. And I definitely admire that tenacity for sure.
I've been told by a filmmaker who works in marketing at a company that they used to market DVDs. Now they market for streaming, and he said it takes 7 engagements to get a response.
Wow.
Like literally, the 7th email someone sees, they'll open. But yeah, so
That's too many emails.
Those are good words to live by.
it's shocking to me, but it's true. And you know, I send like I will send an email at the end of a festival. Hey, if you want to do this podcast, let me know. And then I'll send like another email to all those people who were official selections last December and go, by the way, there's the podcast if you want to sign up. And you know, and then Karina will email people, and then she gets the list and she emails them, and they go, oh, I didn't know there was a podcast. And you say to yourself, I thought I was annoying the fuck out of somebody.
Right.
But they're just not looking.
Yeah.
And the inbox has changed too, right? Because of social media. Like a lot, you know, the email inbox isn't what it used to be.
Yeah. I always have to remind myself of that too when we're sending like an email, you know, asking for a favor or, you know, whatever. Like, I always feel like, oh God, I'm annoying this. Like, what? They're gonna be so. And then when we get that email from someone, I'm never annoyed.
Yes.
I'm always like, oh, of course, yeah, of course, man. You know, like you have to think about the other side of it and remember that kind of bring this full circle. You know, people aren't thinking about you that much.
It's true.
You're not important enough to annoy them.
Because they're thinking about who they think that they annoyed that day.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Everyone's inside their own head.
Well, one thing that I've sort of learned to live by recently, or try to live by it more, is I read this maybe we talked about this in the last thing, now I can't remember. But I read some study that when you do someone a favor, you would think that would make that person like you more. Paradoxically, it does not, because that person feels indebted to you, and part of them resents it. But if you ask someone for a favor, it subconsciously makes the person like you more because they feel that you are in their debt now. Or wait,
wow.
Yes, you're in their debt and will do a future favor for them. So you should never shirk away from asking for favors because it subconsciously makes people like you more.
Interesting.
That is interesting. That almost falls into a thing that I've learned to practice, which is, and it's very hard in our culture for we're as males we're taught, you know, not to ask for help. But when you ask people for advice, they fucking love it.
Oh yeah.
When you treat someone else like, you know more about this than I do. Can you tell me what you think?
Yeah.
And oh my God, no one's ever offended that you ask them for their opinion.
It's true, but at the end of every piece of advice I give to someone, I say, but I don't know, or you don't have to listen to because I can't if they take my advice and it destroys their life, I don't want to be held responsible.
That's true. Life-destroying advice is
Yes.
different.
Especially, I do think related to our industry in particular, like what one person does is not going to work for the next person. Like everyone has a completely different path.
Totally.
It's always very unique.
Absolutely. More so than ever because the doors have been blown wide open. And yeah, I mean.
Now you can make a
you
movie
just
on
think,
your phone.
You know, apparently, yeah, you can.
Will it be good though?
Movies are
Probably not.
No, and when well, sometimes
Yeah, I mean, Tangerine was made on an iPhone.
yeah, Soderbergh did it just for.
Well,
shits
there's
and
some
giggles.
But
Huge
1,000
movie.
people just made a bad movie on their iPhone yesterday
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But there's some big movie. It wasn't Mission Impossible. There was some huge movie that 28 years later is shooting on an iPhone. But then you see a
Interesting.
picture of it and it has like an enormous lens and like you can't even tell it's an iPhone.
Oh, I can't tell you this. A brilliant film out of Australia was shot on red, and then when it came to reshoots, the money wasn't there, and he used his iPhone, and through the post-process, you cannot tell which shots are shot on iPhone and which are shot... What is shot on the thing in your pocket and what is shot on the $10,000...
That's
well,
crazy.
no, it costs more, doesn't it?
It's more than
whatever.
that,
The
yeah.
10,000 rental for 3 weeks.
Which
And
movie?
Oh my God. Braga. It's actually a post-apocalyptic short out of Australia. I can't believe I don't remember the title anymore. It's from 2018.
Oh.
But I'll tell you this.
We'll edit this out too.
It's so fucking good. And, because it's an Aboriginal Australian name.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
that's why I'm coughing on the title. But
I'm gonna look this up later. It sounds very intriguing.
I just need to share this with you both. It's post-apocalyptic, and he shot in Australia, but then his now wife, then girlfriend, was from Ukraine. They flew to Ukraine and went to Chernobyl and shot at like abandoned shopping malls in Chernobyl that were filled with vegetation and trees and shit growing, and they did shots outside of the Chernobyl radiation zone
Wow.
of Dazor to get his post-apocalyptic look.
That's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Fucking great. I almost should want to hit pause and then get the title, but
Yeah.
I really think it was Braga. Oh my God. All right. Look, I am almost 60, so I'm not going to remember shit.
Hey, age is just a number, as we
Yes.
said.
It's just a number. All right, well, we've, see, if only we, and I'm running my hands again. You know what would be hilarious would be to have, like, a link at the end. You know what? I might do this. I might put the horrible audio one up on whatever hosts this stuff, and then just have a link to it. So if anyone is truly insane, they can listen to this podcast and then click the link in the show notes to hear the original chat. And then they can like really be experts. Maybe
Love
when
it.
when you two, when your $15,000 feature is the next Everything Everywhere All at Once,
Right.
Which was a lot more than 15. But, I don't even know what the most recent
it would be
micro budget
Micro,
that broke
yeah.
big was.
I know that a film I really loved last year called Ghostlight was made for under $1 million. A family drama, now streaming on AMC Plus, highly recommend. Was nominated for a bunch of Indie Spirit Awards, but $15K and under $1 million, there's a big difference there.
I was thinking of maybe Florida Project.
Yeah, I don't know.
Florida Project, something. I know every once in a while something breaks through.
Speaking of fonts, I don't know if you've seen, but all of his movies have the same, like Tangerine, Anora, Red Rocket. It's all the same font.
It is a
So,
good font.
I love that he's like, I have my own font.
Yeah.
And then that font passes my font snob muster.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to your future fonts.
Thank
and
you
your
very
future
much.
films.
Yeah. You can listen to our font podcast.
I would totally get it. Let's do it.
Oh my God, there probably is a font podcast somewhere.
Probably.
One of the great pains in my life is when like there's a font I love and I try all the reverse font lookups and I can't find it. And I'm like, I need this font.
I know, especially when it's like, oh, do you want to buy it for $356? No.
Yeah, I've never paid for a font.
I may be a font snob, but I'm not paying for fonts.
Oh, there's so many free Google
A font
fonts.
madman. Yes.
Yeah. All right, I'll wrap us up. I'll put on the glasses and I'll read what I'm supposed to read. But thank you, Matt Keats. Thank you, Mike Sorce. I just like saying your names
Yes.
right.
We appreciate it. It's very rarely done.
Well, I told you before, I have my best friend of 45 years. Yeah, has a very unusual name and everyone pronounces it wrong. And I'm like, fucking A, it doesn't take that much.
I really appreciate it, so thank you very much. My dad will appreciate it.
And I used to joke with people that my name's Jeff, but it's spelled M-A-R-K. And they, whatever. All right, so so look, watch Manifesto. Go to some version of Amuleto and watch it. But if it moves around on Amuleto, it will still these two gentlemen will send me an email with its new link, and the link in these show notes will be accurate so you can see Manifesto, because we didn't really spend as much time talking about Manifesto this time. I think last time we talked a lot more about Manifesto itself.
Well, they can listen to it on the Distorted.
Chopped and
Microphone.
Screwed.
Distorted.
Yes.
But it is a truly high-quality, memorable indie short that shows serious promise.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As directors,
Yes.
you guys are writer-director team. And so
We still
anyway,
identify as writers, for sure.
yeah. Well, so did Robert Zemeckis, and look what happened.
Exactly.
He's
Wait, same thing with Alex Garland, too. He loves
Yeah.
all the time being like, I hate directing. So we'll be like him
He
one day.
claims he's taking
Yes.
a pause from it for a while.
Yeah,
We'll see.
That's not going to last.
Well, all right. So in my wrap-up, watch Manifesto. Follow these two. Their social media, I believe, will be clickable links in the show notes. I got that from you last time. Although, did I? Are you
Nah.
not? So no, you're not social
I got
media
nothing.
people.
I am on Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram. I post reviews of different burgers around LA and talk about movies that I enjoyed.
That's why I need you back. That's why I destroyed
Burger
the audio on
podcast,
purpose.
right.
Because I had sent an email to myself with the list of your burger recommendations, and I accidentally deleted it.
Wow.
So,
they're all right there on Instagram.
Yeah. Okay, I got to follow. Well, what's your Instagram?
Oh, it's just at Mike V, like Victor, and then my last name Sorce.
I just typed that with my left hand. Thus the awkward pause.
Very
All right.
impressive.
So, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This is the Discover Indie Film podcast. If you want to learn more about it, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIFWins. And there is a TV series on Amazon Prime Video of the same name. Just look it up. Support indie filmmakers. Discover Indie Film on Amazon. All right. We mentioned the Sherman Oaks Film Festival, where these two won a pair of killer awards for their killer film. I don't know why I'm using bad adjectives. You can learn more about that festival that we hold every December. In fact, this year is the 10th anniversary of the Sherman Oaks Film Festival. It'll be number 10. It's funny, I'm torn between 10th edition and 10th anniversary because it feels like... But I guess even though I want to say edition, everyone's telling me you have to say anniversary. So fine.
I'll be a contrarian and vote addition.
Yeah, with an E, yes. Edition. Well, anyway, that's every December, so you can learn more if you go to ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's Sherman Oaks FF on social media. Its sister festival is Film Invasion Los Angeles that we hold every June. That 10th anniversary, of course, comes first, or the 10th edition is coming first. You can learn more if you go to filminvasionla.com or at filminvasionla. And if you love indie films, check out indiechannel.tv. And Mike, Matt, thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.